What are you doing? No. Are we gonna need any of this? You have to put it. Okay. Lauren, are we gonna need anything? Yeah. Look, this page. We need the iodine.
Okay, I'm good.
Right here. Put in sink and put in sink.
Classrooms in California and across the nation are becoming increasingly diverse. Teachers must find new strategies for promoting equity while providing a challenging curriculum. Cooperative learning is an increasingly popular strategy for tackling this dilemma. But without careful implementation, cooperative learning can recreate the status inequalities of the larger society within the small group.
Because if you check out the other ones, yeah, it'd be like Audrey, can you do this one?
One of the most common problems with group work teachers report is one student who dominates the group, doing all the talking, while one or more students does not participate at all.
Crystallization is a formation of crystals. We can put that instead of crystallization. No.
In sociological terms, this is a status problem. That is, some students expect themselves and are expected by others to be much more competent. Others are expected to be relatively incompetent. These differences in expectations affect how much group members participate. This problem is evident even in classrooms where students have received a lot of training in cooperation.
Oh, a door. We need
No.
door.
Don't worry about the thing. Just get a top thing now.
What are signs of low-status behavior? Low-status students don't have access to the task. They often can't get their hands on the materials. Body language is a good indicator of status. A student without access will frequently be physically separated from the rest of the group. Low-status students don't talk as much as other students. Often when they do talk, their ideas are ignored by the rest of the group. Newcomers are often low status. They may face language barriers that inhibit participation. As recent arrivals, they can be isolated from the existing social groups. This compounds their low status. Many times, teachers mistakenly see low-status students as passive or unmotivated. In fact, the student is simply unable to get access to the materials or the attention of the group. How do you know when you're having status problems within your student groups? Let's take a look at a group and see if we can detect the behaviors that make up a status problem.
Put it right here. There is no more pins.
Can you pick out the low-status student? Many teachers view this as a behavior problem or the result of low self-concept. But the low-status student shows motivation and intellectual curiosity. The problem is he can't effectively participate. This is, in effect, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Neither the student nor the other members of the group believe he can effectively contribute, so the student actually ends up contributing very little. These problems are not unique to younger children. We can also see them in adolescents and adults. These students are selecting roles for a skit about Martin Luther. What status problems can you observe in this group?
They had a bonfire and they burned all the
It says, an observer described the event as follows. In the year of our Lord and Savior 1520, on the 10th day of Christ's month, the students of Wittenberg were informed by notice in the bulletin board in front of the lecture building that an anti-Christian decretals were to be burned at 9 o'clock in the morning. So who's doing that? The students.
Okay, so then actually we just have
a follower. One is going to follow Martin Luther, and a priest, and the Pope. Who wants to be
the most powerful. The priest has barely anything to say because the Pope has all the power.
Did you see any evidence of domination or non-participation? Let's look at a second group. They're doing an exercise in setting priorities.
Do we want a knife or no? We don't want that?
Leave it.
Okay.
Not yet. Don't do anything with it yet.
Okay, how about a knife? We need a knife?
I just said.
Yeah or no?
No.
No? Just leave it? Or
Yeah, leave it home.
Okay.
Leave it home.
paper and ink, no sock?
Yeah, because if you get a wound or something, you just like
Okay,
in the John Wayne movies.
Okay. That. Cooking pans.
You need that for cooking koku.
Flint and tinder, we want that, right?
Well, we gotta take out some.
How many do we have so far?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, let's pick out a fruit. No, we don't need umbrellas, definitely not.
No.
Don't you think
Either
any fruit? I'm hungry right now. Well, we might need a knife more. Yeah, let's say knife over fruit. Not kill somebody, kill some food if we get hungry.
That's what I mean.
Okay, a knife.
Kill
So
somebody,
we have our
okay.
10 things we want. Sandals. Money.
Why do that? Why don't you just cross it out?
Let's watch this group again. See if you can keep track of just how frequently the person you think is high status talks and how frequently the low status person talks.
Or no? We don't want that?
Leave it.
Okay.
Not yet. Don't do anything with it yet.
Okay, how about a knife? We need a knife?
I just said.
Yeah or no?
No.
No? Just leave it? Or
Yeah, leave it home.
Okay.
Leave it home.
paper and ink, no sock?
Yeah, because if you get a wound or something, you just like in the John Wayne movies.
Okay. That. Cooking pans.
You need that for cooking koku.
Flint and tinder, we want that, right?
Well, we gotta take out some.
How many do we have so far?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, let's pick out a fruit. No, we don't need umbrellas, definitely not.
No.
Don't you think
Either
any fruit?
fruit.
I'm hungry right now.
Yeah. Well, we might need a knife more. Yeah, let's say
to kill
knife over
somebody?
fruit. Not kill somebody, kill some food if we get
Yeah, that's
hungry.
what I mean.
Okay, a knife.
Kill
So
somebody,
we have our
okay.
10 things we want. Sandals. Money.
Why do that? Why don't you just cross it out, Mike?
Research shows that students who talk less during group work learn less. If the teacher could do something that would boost the expectations for competence on the part of the low-status student, he or she would not only participate more, but would learn more. In fact, the teacher can actually modify the expectations for competence and incompetence that students hold for themselves and each other. Since these differences in expectations are the real cause of the problem you have seen, once you change the expectations, you will change the behavior of the students in the group. One way to change expectations is the multiple abilities treatment. In this treatment, the teacher must convince students that successful completion of their task depends on many different intellectual abilities.
What kind of abilities are required to be able to produce a product like that?
The students must be made to believe that each group member is good at one or more of these abilities, but no one is good at all of them. If you can convince students that this is so, you will find that the low-status student will talk more, and the high-status student will be less likely to dominate the group. Conventional schoolwork will not work in this treatment because every student knows that in these tasks, reading, writing, and computing are the only things that count. Instead, what is called for is what I call a rich group work task, one that actually does require many different intellectual abilities and skills. For example, a task that requires students to observe, measure accurately, and compare. The tasks must be challenging.
What I did was I made a circuit to the battery generates electricity, and the foil is a conductor which the electricity passes through, and the light bulb lets it light up.
Planning, analyzing, interpreting a diagram,
This must be the water then, because it says Lake Biwa. So.
Designing an illustration, hypothesizing, acting.
No, nobody paying no tax no more. I'm gonna do revolt. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
You're gonna be severely punished. I'm telling the shogun.
Predicting, inferring, and concluding are all intellectual abilities or skills that can be called for in a well-designed task. Watch how this teacher calls upon her students to employ higher-order thinking skills in approaching a lesson on chemical reactions.
I'd like you to hypothesize whether or not a chemical reaction occurred in your center. Okay? Now, if a chemical reaction occurred, I'd like you to come up with what evidence did you observe that led you to that conclusion. Why do you think a chemical reaction occurred? Give me evidence. Back it up with proof. Okay? If not, if no chemical reaction did occur, I'd like you to predict whether or not you think that over time, maybe in the next few days, a chemical reaction will occur.
It's not easy to convince students that many different abilities are necessary unless you have thought about it and believe that this is actually the case for the task you have chosen. Let's listen to these teachers discussing a graph of peasant uprisings in feudal Japan.
And if they've had some practice in graphs, or for some kids that have what particular kind of mathematic ability, or what I don't know if it's sort of a skill that allows them to with practice to interpret it, or if it's really kind of an ability or an inclination towards mathematical representations. I don't know, but it could be very difficult.
This could go good prediction here.
Oh, that's true.
Good predict, because you see here, there's not too many uprisings, and all at once we have this tremendous upsurge in uprising. So prediction here might be interesting.
Well, just to note.
Now let's hear the same teacher orient her class to the multiple ability unit on feudal Japan.
I want to remind you that it takes a lot of different abilities to do these projects well. Some of you are good at interpreting things and figuring things out. Some of you are good at working with your hands. Some of you can draw well. Some of you can get very dramatic and theatrical and present things very well. And you need to use all those strategies, all those things together to put this unit or to put this activity together. And that means you have to be open to what other people in the group are saying and get rid of maybe your stereotypes about, oh yeah, he never does his work, he doesn't have anything to contribute, or she never knows what's going on, I don't have to listen to her. Because each one of you has skills, has abilities that can be applied here. You have to be able to analyze the graph because it's a representation, a different kind of representation of information. And then you have to translate that into some kind of meaningful interpretation that you can apply to the topic.
Now let's look at a teacher who uses her orientation to have the students brainstorm about multiple abilities.
Well, we had to do a cartoon that had something going on now. We had a policeman, because of the policeman beatings, we had a policeman standing on top of a person and a black person, and then because like the beatings. He's saying we stand on top of our work, and then the guy's saying, you can say that again.
Okay, so you're doing current events, and what incident were you being somewhat sarcastic or caustic about? What current event?
Right now, the police beatings.
The police beatings, and specifically the Rodney King beating in L.A. What kind of abilities are required to be able to produce a product like that?
Art.
Okay, first of all, you have to have some artistic ability. Good. What other abilities?
The ability to make the good decisions and visualize.
Okay, to prioritize. Okay, visualization goes. Okay, and thinking skills. You have to have strong thinking skills. And more than just thinking skills, you have to be very imaginative, right? Okay, these are some of the abilities that you had to have as a group and individually.
Be sure in talking about abilities that you pick abilities that are generally seen as important and intellectual. Most social skills are not generally seen as intellectual abilities, although they undoubtedly are. So unless you are prepared to re-educate your class on this point, don't focus on social skills as one of the multiple abilities.
As working as a group, what kinds of skills did you need to work together as a group, aside from cooperation? How did you come up with your ideas?
So let's just looking at the picture that we were given.
So you analyzed the picture, good.
We just kind of thought about what you'd use.
Okay, so then after you analyzed, then you started making some perceptions or synthesizing.
There's going to be a piece of picture.
If the teacher successfully demonstrates the existence of multiple abilities, and students work repeatedly with multiple ability group work tasks, then the students will be able to talk about these multiple abilities as having reality for them.
Just, you know, it's coordination of the hand, it's coordination of the mind, because you have to write a lot of stuff backwards, because when you put it on the printing press, so it'll come out right.
That's exactly right. So who do you think in this class would have a really hard time figuring that one out?
I don't know.
You're pretty good spatial relations, so I think that you probably would do very good and very well in figuring out type. You're going to have to use some creativity there. Think of a pretty... Absolutely, but can you make your printing press, your mobile printing press, even more creative?
As you see people working together, you'll see all the abilities that other students have in themselves that you didn't know before. There was this one kid, but he was really shy. He's always like out of everything. He was never doing something or speaking out until we had an art project that we had to do, and he just visualized, just got a pencil and a piece of paper, and he like acted and draw a lot of things that people didn't even see in him until that one time that we saw another part of him.
Like in this one, crystals and powders, we use a lot of powders, and we have to do exact measurement. It's like in a cooking. If it's in cooking, you use too much of something, yeah, as I said, it messed the whole project up.
You have to be observant to see what's happening and if there is a chemical reaction, if there's not.
In order for the multiple ability status treatment to work, you must actually say, no one will be good at all of these abilities. Everyone will be good at some of these abilities. By emphasizing this, you are convincing the students that each one of them should have a mixed set of expectations for competence.
Because remember that not everybody's going to be good at everything you do, but we're all good at something. Todos somos buenos para hacer cuando menos una de estas habilidades. We cannot do everything right, but at least we know how to do several things, so we're going to be a real good resource for our groups.
If the students believe that many different abilities are important for the task at hand, and if they think that each person will have strengths and weaknesses on the abilities involved, then no one will have uniformly high expectations for competence, and no one will have uniformly low expectations for competence. The new expectations you have developed will combine with the older expectations the students bring to the situation. The result will be a much weaker difference between high and low status students in both talking and influence.
I like that, and I'm glad that you show that in your skit. That's wonderful. We can build a city.
Assigning competence to low status students is a second treatment teachers can use to modify expectations. This treatment takes advantage of the power of the teacher as an evaluator. Students tend to believe evaluations teachers make of them. Thus, if the teacher publicly evaluates a low status student as being strong on a particular multiple ability, the student will tend to believe that evaluation. The other students who overhear are also likely to accept the evaluation's validity.
Ernesto, I think you would be really good if you could organize the plan, because I think that's a skill that you do very well. You're very good at visualizing how things might be laid out.
This is a very powerful treatment. It can do much to boost the participation of a low-status student. Ordinarily, you may only watch the low-status student to see if they are confused or staying out of trouble. You and the other students in the group may not even notice when the low-status student does something really well. To assign competence, you must observe when the low-status students actually do make intellectual contributions. It's a good idea to carry a clipboard while students perform group work. This enables you to record your observations of what the low-status students are doing. When you make evaluations, it is important that they be made publicly.
Okay, so you've come up with different conclusions. Jeff's, I hear, saying that he says that the sugar is disappearing. I hear Nikki say that there's air bubbles in this one. That is very important. Okay, your observation is going to help your group. Okay, Nikki's come up with a great observation of something that's happening that's very different. What do we know about air bubbles? What is that evidence of? Okay, think about that. Nikki, help your group, since you've already noticed that they have air bubbles. Discuss why it has air bubbles and what does that say about how this compares to this. That's going to be a crucial bit of information for you to continue on with your experiment.
Assigning competence is not simply a treatment for the low-status student. It is a group treatment. This is because the problem lies partly in the expectations that others have for the low-status student. The group's expectations for this student must also be changed.
When you have an opportunity to stand back and look to see how a group is kind of developing and what's going on with it, you can pick up some little kind of hints from the kids and some little tactics to use to build the status of some students that you may not have thought of yourself. And for me, it's kind of been a learning experience.
Right now, but Luis decides what he says. Luis don't decide.
When assigning competence, be specific. Make sure the student knows exactly what he or she has done well and why it is a multiple ability.
You know, I really have seen, when I was looking at Luis working right now, and Luis is looking at the card and following the diagram in the card to be able to do this. He's doing it like cross. He puts one straw crossing like that to make it much stronger. He's really doing that by following a diagram. You know that's a great ability to have, because he could be an architect. That's what architects do. They follow a diagram and then they build something. So he's a great resource here in this group, because you guys can really rely on him to make your structure much stronger. That's really good. Luis, me gusta, estoy diciendo que estás trabajando viendo el diagrama ya, ¿verdad? Estás viendo cómo hacerlo más fuerte. Ya sabes tú que eso es lo que hacen los arquitectos. A lo mejor cuando tú seas grande vas a ser muy buen arquitecto porque estás viendo lo que están haciendo y lo estabas haciendo muy fuerte. No lo tienes que desbaratar. Estabas haciéndolo muy bien. Ahora cuando lo pongan todo junto va a poder estar más fuerte. ¿Por qué te equivocaste? Pero tú lo puedes interpretar como tú quieras, Luis. No tiene que ser exactamente igual. ¿Sí? Tú lo estabas haciendo muy bien, porque tú sabes hacer muy bien las estructuras. No tienes que hacerlo exactamente igual. You need to tell Luis what you want to do, because he's the one that is a resource here, but he has to understand. If not, he can't help you.
Finally, you need to make the ability relevant to the task at hand.
They understand that even if they cannot read, they can contribute to the group and they can make their group be successful. And I have seen, you know, I saw it today with Luis, that he was able to at least put that a little bit of, you know, part of his ability into the structure, and everybody kind of said, oh, well, yeah, he can do that. He can do something better, you know, not even if he cannot read or write.
Indeed, if a student participates more in group work, his reading and writing skills will also improve. There's a lot going on in a classroom during group work. This can make it difficult to assign competence just when the behavior occurs. If you've taken good notes during group work, you can take time after class to figure out just what to say to the low-status student. The next day, before group work begins, you can review the previous session. Go over how the various groups worked and how roles were played. Use this time to assign competence to the particular low-status students you are concerned about.
When they were planning, I went around and I saw that Cindy could look at things and say, all right, that has possibility. She could see the possibility, the potential in items that normally a lot of us would say, well, you know, that's just a bunch of yarn, or that's just a bunch of this, and she created the hairstyle and created the details for the costuming. So she has a good visual eye for the potential of things, what the possibilities in them.
This is our farmer.
A word of caution. Assignments of competence must be based in truth. The low-status student knows what he or she has or hasn't done. A false assignment of competence will do more harm than good.
Turn around and show them your hunched back that you got while bending to plant the rice.
I appreciated too, especially Daniel, the way you incorporated the body postures as part of the different ranks, because that certainly would be a key item. Punwadi, adding details like how the sword was made and how he got his hunchback, telling us about working in the rice. That makes it not only visual, but gives us more information about what we're seeing. So we're not going to forget that.
I have seen classroom change, change their view of a student that has been seen like, well, he doesn't know anything, to suddenly going up to him for advice. I saw last year I had a student like that everybody wanted him in their group.
As a teacher, you will be encouraged to find that you don't have to be a therapist to treat low-status behavior or to reach the hardest-to-reach student. It is within your power to change the social situation that is the source of the problem.
Reset. Yeah, but you're doing a good job. You can compensate for that. I know.